Spring of 2015, in the affluent, tree-lined community of Léarini in western France. Behind tall gates sits the Château de la Châterie, a sprawling private estate. On what seemed like an ordinary evening, the owner, 37-year-old Jan Marchand, was hosting a small dinner party for a few friends. Before heading home, two of his guests decided to take a walk around the grounds. As they crossed the lawn, something white caught their eye in the grass. They walked closer and instantly froze. Lying right there on the ground was a human skull. Most people would be on the phone with the police within seconds. Jan reacted with a chilling composure. He casually suggested a neighborhood dog had probably dug up an old grave at the nearby cemetery. Then he grabbed a heavy tarp, covered the remains, and went back inside to finish dinner as if nothing had happened. Jan's silence created a vacuum where a normal human reaction should have been. It left his guests, and later the police, to wonder exactly what was sitting beneath that tarp, and what kind of man could simply walk away from it. A few miles away, a woman named Anne-Laure walked into the local gendarmerie station to report her best friend missing. Her friend was 39-year-old Céline Sabé Marchand, Jan's wife. Investigators noticed a disparity in the couple's behavior. It was the best friend filing the report, while the husband remained behind the gates of his estate, never reaching out to the authorities. Jan eventually offered them a confident explanation. He claimed that after ongoing family disagreements, Céline had voluntarily checked herself into a psychiatric facility to take a break and recover emotionally. But when Anne-Laure showed investigators the recent messages arriving from Céline's phone, the tone had shifted. The warm nicknames were gone, replaced by a cold, formal language that addressed Anne-Laure only by her full legal name. Anne-Laure was convinced someone else was at the keyboard. Investigators were now looking at a digital illusion, a suspect trying to create the appearance of a life while keeping the victim's loved ones at a distance. Detectives methodically contacted every hospital, rehabilitation center, and clinic across the region. The results were absolute. There wasn't a single medical record showing that Céline had ever been admitted to any facility. Cell tower data destroyed Jan's story. As this map shows, Céline's phone never traveled to a treatment center. It remained near the estate. Crucially, its movements perfectly matched Jan's. Whenever he drove to town, the device went with him, sending texts from a distance. Jan used this window of time to finalize a new life. On the exact day he claimed Céline had left for treatment, he moved his secret mistress right into the home. She began driving Céline's car and raising her children, genuinely believing the previous owner had simply walked away and left. Digital forensics make it difficult to maintain a deception like this. A suspect cannot convincingly fake a disappearance when the victim's device is continuously traveling in their own pocket. To understand why Jan orchestrated such an elaborate cover-up, investigators turned to the family's financial records. Jan had carefully built the image of a successful businessman selling medical oxygen cylinders. But the audit revealed the company existed only on paper. It was a prop used to maintain a facade of wealth while he spent his days in cafes and fitness centers. Behind the scenes, the finances were a disaster. Jan had secretly sold inherited apartments, spent the proceeds, emptied the children's savings accounts, draining every single dollar. He was desperate to support a lifestyle he couldn't afford. The impending divorce would have left Jan with nothing. Because of a strict prenuptial agreement, Céline's multi-million-dollar estate was legally hers alone. Separation meant Jan would return to his previous life, a warehouse worker buried in debt. For Jan, the divorce was a financial death sentence. Ending the marriage would dismantle the entire lifestyle he had spent years faking. When the gendarmerie finally arrived with a search warrant, the skull from the lawn had vanished. With the grounds empty, the team moved deep into the expansive property to an old stone chapel used for storage. The interior was almost too clean. The stone floor gleamed, leaving no trace of dust. In a forgotten outbuilding, that obsessive precision tells a story of its own. Forensic specialists applied Blue Star, a chemical reagent reacting with trace hemoglobin at the molecular level. In the darkness, the chapel floor suddenly erupted with a bright blue luminescence, revealing a massive amount of blood that had been meticulously scrubbed away. DNA analysis confirmed the genetic profile. Despite the cleaning products, the biological reality was clear. The blood belonged to Céline. Jan immediately pivoted to a defense of accidental death, claiming a struggle had turned tragic. But investigators countered with a store receipt for industrial cleaning chemicals. Jan had purchased them days before the attack ever happened. You can weave a persuasive story in an interrogation room, but molecular reality and paper trails reveal the preparation that goes into a crime. On the morning of March 20th, Jan lured Celine to the chapel under the pretense of sorting through old belongings. Once inside, he struck her with a shovel he had hidden there in advance. He left her body beneath a tarp and returned to his normal routine. For an entire week, he lived in the house, picked up his children from school, and spent time with his mistress, all while his wife lay just a few dozen yards away. A week later, he transported the remains to the woods and built a massive fire to destroy the evidence. He believed he had reduced everything to ash. But he had overlooked a single variable. Drawn by the scent, the family dog dug into the burn site, recovered a surviving bone fragment, and dropped the skull on the lawn in front of his dinner guests. It is the ultimate flaw in a master plan. No amount of calculation can account for every variable in a living environment. In 2018, Jan Marchand was sentenced to 30 years in prison with no possibility of early release for 15 years. He was also permanently stripped of his parental rights. The multi-million-dollar estate he tried to seize was frozen by the state. The money will remain in trust for Celine's children, ensuring Jan never accesses a single cent of the fortune he killed for. The idea of the perfect crime remains a myth. You can scrub a stone floor and fake a text message, but in a world of geolocation and molecular chemistry, you cannot delete the truth.